Right now, there is this really cool spotlight put on India. Book Apple has started manufacturing here. A book has come out called Apple in China. Fascinating learnings where over 10 years Apple invested $50 billion a year in China to build capacity. And the core of that book was not just, hey, look at all the money that Apple put into China, but they did a lot of really good technology transfer and learning. And that has led to the boon and the boom of the companies in that country that has then gone on to really impact the economy positively. That didn't really necessarily happen in India. We brought them all here. I don't know if necessarily that happened. Do you see that changing now?
As I said, Apple is one of the smartest company. While their ecosystem always invest on them, and Apple has always outsourced entire ecosystem. As said, the designing, which is completely controlled by them, which is the fair and the best way, and I would say the tough jobs and the hard jobs are done outsourced always. They have a very strong understanding of the supply chain bit, which becomes the core fundamental pillar for the brand. So it is more about that, it is like a mall and an anchor shop. If you are opening up a mall and if you have an anchor shop, all other brands will also continue to, start springing up around over there. So there used to be an anchor shop concept that every mall used to have an anchor shop. So this country, Apple used to be like an anchor brand. If Apple is there, then all the entire component ecosystem will start coming across because of their volumes and economies of scale,
Hmm.
right? With their ASP is also high. So it's one of the best proposition for them. What I see right now is their partners who invest more.
Hmm.
So it would be the supply chain partners, component partners, government who invest on behalf of Apple to make sure that probably they continue to invest on Apple and get their business done. Right.
That is
So
fascinating.
hence I say that they are one of the smartest company in the world. Right?
There's a whole podcast in and of itself in learning how these kinds of things are set up. It's fascinating how one player can centralize strategy around so many other smaller folks, getting them to invest and build. While that happened in China, what I'm understanding now is slowly the ecosystem is picking up in India, and that's what's keeping us very excited. The opportunity बहुत बड़ा है. Massive market is awaiting for us.
When Japan came into a lot of labor laws and everything, and Japan started to become expensive, every production started shifting down to China in 80s and between 2000. So today they are at a stage that they are much more expensive than India at this point of time. So we think that China is cheaper. I think they are expensive. Their manpower cost is 5 times than India cost in terms of electronic manufacturing. Point number one.
Hmm.
We are at 1/5 cost of China, but technology know-how, they have got enough. They would have double of what we have. So between Taiwan and China, there are total around more than $900 billion worth of electronic exports. India is at a nascent stage of around $30 billion,
Hmm.
mainly credited to Apple at this point of time. Right. So I think there's a huge opportunity coming out from India and going globally.
Very cool. And the narrative has always been that China mein ho raha hai because there's economies of scale, there's a very strong ecosystem, and therefore it makes a lot of sense to manufacture in China. I know that you are going to be manufacturing here and you have already started manufacturing here. So what has changed? Why is it now viable to start manufacturing in India?
Policies from 2014, I believe the government has been pushing, and I think it's a very extremely important part to understand that technology transfer and technology know-how transfer is not like an instant noodles, which would be made in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years.
Hmm.
I like to draw upon an example which I always draw upon that Taiwan used to be a shoe and a fruit exporter back in 1970. They did not know anything about semiconductors, and China used to be considered as a sweatshop. What we see today, Shenzhen, which is a swanky, buildings, used to be a mud houses back in 1980s and 90s, right? It became an economy where then the president who decided to change the country's landscape to make it as a manufacturing and assembly hub to begin with. So
Hmm.
they also took around 40 years, 30 years, 40 years on what they are today. I think we started, as far as I understand, 2014, when the government came in, started pushing for electronic exports and electronic local manufacturing. So, the long-term investments, which would be tuning up to billions of dollars, and then getting the business out of it,
Hmm.
which is guaranteeing the business out of it, is also one of the biggest challenge. Hence, that's where the technology transfer comes into play. One
Ji.
is the capex, and one is the continuation of the business.
Hmm.
Secondly, even if somebody thinks of putting up their capex in India, will the business continuation of Apple, depending on Apple? That is also another second biggest challenge for any component ecosystem to have the confidence to do that. Third thing is about technology transfer and technology know-how transfer.
Hmm.
And at the same time, person should have the intent, which I said about the three I, the intent to transfer the technology know-how also to another country.
Hmm.
Right? It happened from Japan to China, China to India. It has to happen. Now it can be happened by choice or it can be happened by force. But the first thing of the capex investments and the continuation of the business will come, and then the intent of transferring the technology know-how. Right. So these three things I believe are the fundamental pillars to move the entire PLI industry or entire component ecosystem in.